Welcome to lesson 8. In this lesson we are going to explore how to save EVE-NG configuration, EVE-NG router and switch configuration to a separate file inside EVE-NG, and how to use this exported configuration inside another EVE-NG of your friend, colleague, or your students, which can benefit from this export and can import inside their own EVE-NG virtual environment and start using them. So in order to explore the test, we are going to create a new lab. We say add new lab. We call it test export lab. Say save. We add a network here. We call it management. And we add a management cloud 0, which has access to the internet, which is actually our home network. Then we are going to add nodes from the IOL, which we uploaded previously. We are going to use layer 3 switch, which is high iron, this one, high iron 2019. We are going to change the default icon of the router to the icon of the switch. So something like this. And we say here switch 1, SW1. And say save. So the switch is ready. Let's add a router. Add node, IOL. And we are going to add a model L3 May 2018. Let's call it R1. And that's all. Let's connect the router to the management cloud via Ethernet interface 00 and connect the switch to the router. Let's start the router 1 and start the switch 1. Let's see their consoles. Let's see what is going on. We can see that the switch has been booted. Let's see what's going on with the router 1. Looks like the router is still booting. Let's do some configuration on switch 1. Let's say enable, change from non-privileged mode to privileged mode. Then say configure terminal. Then say host name, and let's give it some different host name like SW1. Okay, let's save this configuration, do right. Let's do something similar on router. Enable, configure terminal, and say host name R1. And let's save it. So now we have a configured switch 1 and router 1. Let's see the show run configuration of both. Do show run, and we see that we have a host name of switch 1 here, and the rest configuration of 4 interfaces and the switch are default. Let's see what is going on with router 1. We see that the host name is R1 here, and the rest configuration is default. Okay, now we have 2 devices, both configured. Now we are going to export this configuration to EVNG, and we say export for the router, and right click and say export for the switch. And we see here that the notifications say that switch 1 config exported, router 1 config exported. Is it really like this? Let's check it. Let's say startup configs, and we can see that switch 1 has a config, and we can see whatever was inside switch 1, we see it here. And whatever was in router 1, we see it here. So the more devices you will export, it will list here more devices in a sequence from top to down. You are also able to change the configuration here. For example, let's go to switch 1 and say we want to make it not switch 1 but switch 1 and say save. Let's say close. If we stop the switch and then start it again, you will notice that the name of the switch didn't change. The primary reason for this, if we want for the configuration which we have in the export or in the startup for switch 1 to be uploaded to the switch 1 during booting time, we have to wipe it. How to wipe it? So we can say stop, then we can say wipe, so all the configuration will gone, and the EVNG is asking, are you sure to wipe this node? We say yes. And then we will start it. During this startup, the EVNG is going to boot to the startup configuration from here. If you switch this switch to off, it is not going to read it from here. It will just load the default configuration, but as you can see here, it is on. So the EVNG is going to read all the configuration from here and should change the host name to switch 111. Let's see if this is the reality. You see that the switch name is switch 111. If we say show run, we can also see that the host name is 111. So in this case, you are able to export configuration to EVNG, then do some modifications and then import it back. Or it might be that you have a configuration ready from some text file. You can post it to startup configs here, and then you wipe the switch node, and then you restart it, and all the configuration which you pasted here will be applied to the switch. Of course, in case you don't have any mistakes there. The interesting thing is that the interface, which is available in EVNG, highlights some of the codes. It also puts you lines so that you feel more comfortable of what you are doing and what you see. You can disable the ACE editor, and in this case you will see everything like a black and white, which may not be comfortable for all of us. So ACE editor style is fine for us. Let's say save and let's say close. So now we have these two devices like cloud, router 1 and switch 1. Is it possible for me to export this whole configuration to a file and then send to my friend and let this friend use this configuration with all the settings? Let's see. Actually, it is possible. The important point is that when you import configuration, the images that were used here, let's stop them. The images that were used here should also be available on the imported configuration site. Otherwise, it may give error of incompatibility of the script. So, for example, we use here high iron for the switch, and for the router we use May 2018. Let's try to export the configuration. In order to export our lab, we need to first of all close it. In order to close the lab, we have to power off all our devices. We now closed the lab. Let's find our lab. Lab is test export lab. And as you can see from the graphical part, it looks like our lab. So in order to export it, we should select it. And here you can see, say add, change name, move to, delete, import, export, toggle order, refresh. We need to export it. And as you can see, we have here some export expose lab insecure download blocked. We should say here let the Google Chrome doesn't block it, and we have export unit lab expo. Save it inside my downloads folder. And we can see that the file is here. Now we are going to import it to another EVNG, which is already running here, which has an IP address of 1382, and the other one was 1371. So I have a VMware Workstation Pro with both EVNGs running. Here is EVNG which we did the configuration, and this EVNG which we are going to upload our configuration now, which is 1382. As you can see, this one is 1382 and it has only 2 labs. And then we say import. Go to downloads. Select our exported file and say open. And as you can see, it says here export unit lab export something 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 .zip, and the action is upload. We say OK, and it says status success. We have imported this test export lab and we are going to open it. We have opened it, and let's check the images. Let's say edit, and the image is May 2018, it's right. And for the switch, let's say edit, and it's high iron 2019, it's fine. Let's see if we have startup configs. Yes, we have startup configs. Let's try to start them. Start this one. Let's console. Let's say show run. And as you can see, the whole configuration, which was present in the previous EVNG virtual machine lab, has been ported here to switch 1. Let's check for the router 1. Let's say enable. Let's say show run. And as you can see, also the router configuration is also here. So in this way, we are able to export a lab from one EVNG, send it to somebody else via an email, zip file, memory stick file, or some other means. And your friend, colleague, or let's say teacher or instructor can check your lab if you did everything right, or if you are having problems, he can support you to troubleshoot it from his own EVNG. Okay, now let's move to our previous EVNG, which is non-student EVNG configuration, where we did our initial export. We have a switch 1 and R1 running. So far, we didn't explore one of the features of the EVNG is the WireShark. Let's say we want to capture the interface E0.0 for the packets. For this to happen, we just click on the router and say capture. Then we select the interface that we want to capture. Our current router has only 4 interfaces, and interface E0.0 is looking to the internet. Let's say E0.0. And we can see that there is some kind of traffic of STP, CDP, MNDP. MNDP is MikroTik traffic, STP is also MikroTik traffic, which is the primary router at my home. Mostly we don't see any Cisco traffic. let it stay open and let's try to get an IP address using a DHCP client on router 1 E0/0. For this we say console, say enable, say configure terminal, say interface E00, and say IP address, and say DHCP, and say enter. And let's look what is going on. And say do show IP interface brief. And as you can see, there is some IP address should be assigned. Status is up, protocol is up, but the IP address is unassigned. And then we can see that there is some assigned DHCP address 1397. Let's run the command again. And now we can see that we have an IP address of 1397 from the DHCP status up and the protocol is up. Let's try to ping something in the internet. Do ping google.com. And it looks like we can ping it and we can even resolve the DNS. Let's see what happened during that time in the WireShark and let's stop it. Let's go up. We have a ICMP protocol which is pinging our google.com. And let's explore a little bit more detail these DHCP requests. Let's say DHCP, let's say follow stream. This is something different, not related to our request. Yeah, here we have source 0, discover, then we have offer, in the offer we have your client IP is 1397, then we have a request and acknowledge. In this case we checked that we can do the packet sniffing on any interfaces which are inside EVNG. If we sum up of the menus which we have here, in the more actions, wipe all nodes, the menu which we haven't explored previously just will delete all the configuration on all of your existing nodes. Console to all nodes will just console to all nodes, like this. Okay, let's explore more actions. Edit labs, set startup to exported, set node startup config to none. This menu will export all the startup config to the exported location of the EVNG. Set node startup config to none. This will erase all startup config in the EVNG. Delete all startup configs will delete all startup configs in the EVNG. Let's check. We have startup configs. We go to more actions and say delete all startup configs. Say yes. Let's close this one. And as you can see, all startup configs are cleared. So in this case, if you wipe your router 1 or switch 1, you will just have a blank router without possibility to restore it. But if we say more actions, export all configs, now we see that configs are exported and we can see them back here. One more important point is that you cannot export router or switch configuration if you have protected it with some kind of password on the console side. For example, let's log into the switch 1, say configure terminal and say enable password and password 111. So now the serial or console interface, when we'll try to access this switch 1 to get the configuration from it, will face with enable password, but would not know what the password is and would not be able to export the configuration to the EVNG. Let's check. We say right click, export config. It says config exported, but normally it shouldn't be exported. Most probably the system is still connected without console. In this case, what we are going to do, we will change the host name. Let's say conf terminal and say host name to something different. Let's say switch 22222. Let's say do write and let's check the configuration. Do show run. We can see that we have enable password and host name is 222. And let's try to stop it and then start again. In this case, we will refresh the connection from the EVNG to this console interface, and let's try to console to it one more time. Let's say enable. We can see that the switch ID is 222 now, and it is asking for enable password. Enable password was 111, and now we are fine. But the EVNG doesn't know that we have a set enable password, so the EVNG, when trying to export configuration to its own database, will face with the password and will not be able to extract it. Let's check it. We'll say export. Let's see if startup config has any interesting configuration. Oh, wow, it actually can. Let's stop it. Start again. Let's say export config. And now it says failed to export config 16. And the primary reason is that now we didn't input any password to enable, and EVNG doesn't know about this enable password, so it cannot save it. And as you can see, it has already faced it with enable password. Let's close this one. Let's start again. Enter. Bad password. Let's not dial any password and just try to save it. Export. And let's see. You can see that the EVNG is trying to enter the enable mode, but it is facing with the password and it doesn't know the password and it gives error. If we tell it what the password is, let's try again. 111. This EVNG console interface is able to distinguish that you have entered a password and it can buffer it and use it for the export next time. Export config. And now you can see that the password was exported. So if you are planning to export the configuration to the EVNG and don't want to have any problems, while you, let's say, export the whole configuration of your lab and send it to your friend, best practice is to not enable any console passwords at all. This is all what I wanted to explain you in this lesson. If you have any questions about the lesson topic, you can ask them in the comment section of the video. See you in upcoming lesson. If you don't want to miss any new lessons on the channel, please like and subscribe. See you in upcoming lessons.